basic thing when we are talking about the national education policy, it is beautifully crafted, but the most important thing is that how we are going to implement, and how we are going to implement by making some kind of changes as and when we are implementing. So that is the biggest issue. Whenever we talk about the different colleges under the state universities, we are going to have a very diversified group of institutions which are directly funded by the government. Some are the private colleges, some are getting block grants. So there are different kind of colleges are there. So all of them we have to bring first to the mainstream. For the last few years, we are also directly interacting with the colleges for their NAC accreditation, for implementing the National Education Policy 2020. We have also conducted several workshops through our HRDC center, through our government funding from World Bank. On basis of that, I'll be just addressing few points, and as suggested, I'll stick to my time, whatever allotted to me. I think my slides are visible to all of you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Whenever we are talking about national education policy, we have to think from three perspectives. One is that school education, second one is your higher education, and before the school education, we are also including now what we say that the foundation for the school education, and again in the there is in the higher education we also have two parts. One is your college level entry and exit, and the second one is the university level. So there are three parts we have to understand, and we have to make a seamless integration of that. Since the entire seminar topic is on national education policy with more focus on inclusive education, but since I will be delivering my talk in the valedictory session with inclusive test in the education will be the central thrust of my presentation. But how it is totally embedded in the national education policy that I am going to discuss, we should not separate it from the entire draft which has been prepared, because it is totally integrated in the draft. So that's why I have kept my title as National Education Policy 2020 Issues and Challenges without having inclusive education on the top. So far as my perspective is concerned, inclusion in NEP 2020 is that how we provide a wide range of education opportunities to all strata. When I talk about all strata, who have left education or who have never entered into the education, or who have left education in the middle, they are working somewhere, they want to come to the mainstream without leaving their job or occupation, or we are talking about those strata who are the minority group or who are excluded earlier. Now we want to also make them the part of the entire education system, or we are going to have such kind of education which can be really accessible and which can be gender friendly, which can be friendly to those socially and economically backward groups. And at the same time, we have to reduce the cost of education so that the gross enrollment ratio at particularly higher education really reaches the target, which we have decided that it should come at least 50%. So that is the main policy of National Education Policy 2020's main thrust area, that how inclusion should be inclusive within the policy implementation. So that is the thrust area. Now if you talk about what are the key highlights, there are many highlights, many of you have already highlighted on that, so I'll not be deliberating on those detail, but I'll be just explaining the few important highlights of NEP 2020. The number one point is that education should be treated as a continuum. It should not be separate, like when we are talking about early child care education to the higher education. It should be like we are moving from one anchor to another anchor. We are not separating. Earlier, there was, suppose if you look into the school education, we are having a skill development department that is education, higher education department is there, then school and mass education department is there. There are three separate departments. So National Education Policy 2020 also says that we should have an integrated approach where the child is moving from the first stage to the last stage, that is the higher education system. So that's why there is a total changes having a foundation part, a preparatory stage, and a middle stage. Then we can talk about the secondary and then the higher education, the last one. So that is the way we have to think of it as a continuum. So whatever we do in the foundation stage, it has some kind of impact in the preparatory, in the middle, in the secondary, then in the higher education. So that is the issue to be handled. That is the main focus of the NEP 2020, that how we are going to move across the continent. So if we can do that, then of course it can be implemented in a true spirit. So that's why we can get the best input when we are talking about the highest level. Nowadays we are talking about higher education, and if we come into the university level, we found a lot of gap. Whatever we want to give the students at higher education level, we found some kind of gap because it was not addressed in colleges. Sometimes the colleges are also not at fault because it is never addressed in the school. Sometimes schools are also not at fault because the foundation is never built. So that is the main highlight of the national education policy, how we are going to move across the continent. The next thing is that we are going to take care of equitable and inclusive education by emphasizing on SEDGs, socially and economic disadvantaged groups, that is called SEDGs. Again, that is also based on the inclusive, the education is based on SDG 4, Sustainable Development Goal, where we should have quality education and we should have inclusive education. So how we are going to address that Sustainable Development Goal, which is worldwide accepted, and that has been taken care by the NEP. So how we have to build a system where we can really build an equitable education, so that we can bring all those socially and economically disadvantaged groups to the mainstream. Focus on increasing the GAR, the gross enrollment ratio. So that's why every institution should aspire to become a very bigger institution, having large number of enrollment in multidisciplinary field, so that it can cater to all the groups in an effective manner, and at the same time, while dealing with the large groups, it has to be very, very fundamental with the main objective where the access is there, equity is there, and affordability is there. So that we can really increase the GR. Holistic multidisciplinary education with multiple entry or exit. Some question came on that, what we thought about multiple entry and exit option. That's simple. We say that a person, now if you are talking about some students who have completed their semester 1 or 2 and they got the job, they're leaving the entire university. So their 1 year period is lost. So that is one of the advantages, that if someone is getting a better opportunity, he can leave after 1 year and want to join again after some years back, he can do so. But yes, we have to make a time frame. It's not that today I left and I will join after 10 years. In that period, there will be a gap in the curriculum. So that cannot be addressed. So it has to be an exit, so that we can go from certificate to diploma to the degree. So that is the concept of multidisciplinary education. When we are talking about the holistic education, we are talking about it's not the classroom education, it has to be the beyond the classroom education. So any activities we are introducing in the educational system should have some kind of learning. So whether it can be a sports activity, it can be any kind of cultural activities or any other activities, it has to be integrated into the curriculum so that we can really have an holistic approach to the education. The another point which we should address is that moving from segmentation and fragmentation to integration, as I said, that we cannot have separate discipline, rather we can have interdiscipline, or we can integrate many disciplines and can really have meaningful approach to the education. We cannot separate, like as I said, mass education from higher education, from skilling as a separate. It has to be all integrated. Right now, I was listening to Ananya, which says that skill education, exclusive skill education, sometimes also fail because skill is a dynamic concept. It changes. And that's why if you are not going to bridge the skill gap as and when the industry is demanding more type of skill, then of course the moment the person is acquiring that skill becomes obsolete. The skill without the knowledge base is going to be meaningless. But yes, if you have a fundamental knowledge, then when you are integrating skill into that part, then you can upskill, you can reskill, or you can reskill and again reskill. So skill can go ahead because you have the knowledge with the base. So that's why you have to move from segmentation and fragmentation to integration. That is the focus. My next point, will be what is the focus area of NEP 2020? Now, when we are talking about this aspect, I'm not going to go in detail because each of the point will take a lot of time. But when we are talking about NEP 2020, first of all, making education more experiential. Whatever we are teaching in the classroom, that is not going to work unless and until we really help the students to learn by doing it themselves. So it has to be more and more activity oriented, more and more practicing what you have learned. So that's why it has to be experiential. Making education holistic, as I said, we have to make social development, emotional development, physical development, as well as the mental and intellectual development. So mental and intellectual development is also based on other parts which are there, like whether you have more integrated in approach. I'm not having a single discipline approach, I'm having a multidiscipline approach. Cross-disciplinary activities has to be there. So these are the more aspects of the integration. Sometimes we have to make the foundation very strong. That is called character building. Is what will happen that when a person is leaving the educational institute and entering into the societal life or any industry life or any job front, that kind of character building is there. So that's why some kind of universal human values and some kind of ethical teaching or ethical values be audited in the education itself. It should not be separated. It should be part and parcel of the education. Suppose if I talk about management education, if I talk about managerial decision making, it has two aspects. One is that you are having a commercial point of view, you also have an ethical point of view. So when you are having the commercial point of view, you don't think of the stakeholders. When you are having ethical point of view, you have to think of the stakeholders. So that orientation has to be there in the mind of the learner, that yes, we have to think from others' perspective. We have to contextualize the problem. We must understand the local issues and we can still be the global leader. So that's why building is a must. It has to be inquiry driven. When we are talking about inquiry driven, it is a combination of experiential learning as well as using that experiential learning for problem solving. Nowadays, suppose if I am a management education expert, I just talk about that if a product has to be created, a new product has to be created, that the help of customer experience. What the customer wants, what kind of features he really want to be there in the product, what services he expect. Can we really extend our product and services to the bottom of the pyramid at the lowest possible cost without compromising the quality? So that's why the management student, when trying to learn this kind of thing, they have to go to the bottom and find what the customer wants so that they can co-create the product. So that is called an inquiry-driven learning. It is a discovery oriented. So that's why innovation is based on whether we use our creative brain, use our problem solving, whether we are using more activity oriented to find our own perspective and giving back with a new product or service, a new way of solving the problem. So that's why it has to be discovery oriented. Learner centered. From teacher centered to learner centered is from passive learning to the active learning. So here we are helping the students that how to help them to learn. So the teacher is going to become a facilitator and not going to just a simple teacher. So we have to help the learner to find his own customized way to learn. So that is the need of the 2020. It has to be discussion based. So that's why if we are doing group discussion, role playing on certain issues, then it will be more that is better way of critically analyzing the situation, and that's why the learner doesn't have a pressure, rather than he enjoys what he is doing. It has to be flexible. Nowadays we are having a SOM platform, another platform. We are having open distance learning centers, so we can learn from different sources. So it has to be more option to be created for flexible mode. It has to be the last thing is the joyful. It should not be pain. When I am coming for the classes or I am inside the education institute, I should enjoy my stay. So that joyful experience must be created. That is the focus area of the NEP 20. The last part is that what are the implementation challenges? I think I have over 2-3 minutes time. I'll just wind up with that. What are the implementation challenges? One thing is that we had a lot of colonial influence, and we also have an elite group which focuses on English-speaking population, Western cultures influences there. So that's why we have forgotten that value-based education from our Gurukul days. And that's why the people are moving more towards public medium school, and vernacular medium schools are never given much more importance. So NEP 2020 focus on universalization of education. So education must be available in quality form at all level in all possible languages. So that is the implementation challenges. The next challenges is the size and diversity of the education, because India is population is huge and education is very huge. So unless and until each and every person in the major stakeholder group share the ownership of implementing the same, we are really going to face the challenge. Capacity building and transformation. That's why now central government, state government are also taking necessary steps to build minimum infrastructure or equip with technology and to build the capacity of the teachers so that we can get the speakers for the system. So that's why capacity building is there. So far as the transformation is concerned, we are going to deal with many things: curricular changes, innovation in the pedagogy which we are using, and many other things, integrating skill into the curriculum. So much more things we can discuss. So transformation itself is a huge task, and it cannot be discussed within 2 minutes. What is the role of the private sector? Because sometimes private sector has an easy access to the finance and other resources, but their easy access and resources is not available to all the people. at the lowest level. So sometimes we can think of having public-private partnership so that we can make the education also affordable, and the real involvement of the private sector can make us resource. It's a major issue. It has to be resolved because all of us know that we are still having a very, very less percentage of allocation for the education. So we really dream of even the 6% that is not there during the COVID also, it is further reduced. So funding must be, the issue must be addressed. How we are going to address the issues, the last 1 minute, I'm going to talk on that. From random interventions to in-depth plan intervention. What we are going to do? First, are we going to sensitize the people? Now we are going to the sensitization phase. This particular conference or the seminar itself is a sensitization process. So we are sensitizing. So if we are not sensitizing and after we go on sensitizing, then we cannot do anything more. So we have to make some kind of changes, plan intervention. When we are talking about planned intervention, then we are thinking about the next step of transformation going to plan. Major changes in the curriculum, having innovative pedagogy, finding ways how to make a creative and engaged way of teaching and learning, focused on equity and inclusiveness. Somebody is entering into the PG or college graduation course. Do we have a foundation course to bridge the gap between the weak learner and whether we can add something to the better learner to some value addition? So in that way, we have to make some kind of transformational changes. Setting standards and professional development, that is severely lacking. If curriculum is changing it faster, the faculty also simultaneously have to take part in the change. So that's why the professional development is simultaneously to be done. Otherwise, no transformational changes can be sustained. The last thing is that optimal use of technology, as many of you have told, that technology has its limitation because it cannot reach the lowest possible level, but we can find alternative media through which we can use the technology and can make available whatever learning to the lowest possible section as far as possible. So we can use radio, we can use television, we can use other alternative mechanism, and we can reduce the cost of reaching the same to the lowest possible level. So that's why we have to use the optimal use of technology. Balancing teaching and research intensiveness. Nowadays, a college graduates after 4 years, if he or she is taking a major research project, then he can directly enter into the PhD program. So that is the focus. And the last two thing is that bringing flexibility in learning. If I will give you our education in our university, we have in a very strict way, we have implemented the MOOC in our course, that is massive open online courses, where the student can choose from the SWAYAM platform any other subject which can be added to his credit. So that is one kind of academic flexibility is there. Within the university, we have strictly implemented the choice-based system where any discipline student can go to any discipline. There is no restriction of science, arts, and commerce. Our students are also enrolled in geology. One subject they have taken. Once a person has gone to Odia because he wants to master in the language also. So that kind of flexibility you have to create. That's the focus we have to address. Integrating skill in education system. Skill should not be beyond the education. It has to be part and parcel of the curriculum. When we are writing the course objective and course outcome, we have to be very, very careful. First, what we are going to have, the course outcome should reflect the knowledge, how much knowledge gain has been done, how much the student is able to demonstrate the skill, whether the student is going to have some kind of experience through intensive program, whether the student is able to take a decision in such a situation. So that's why we must have field trips, we must have role playing and other kind of things for evaluation of the students' learning. So course outcome has to be very, very demonstrative in nature so that I can measure it, finding that the real impact. The last thing before I end is that we must have a multi-linguistic, multidisciplinary, multiple ways of education. When I say multi-linguistic way, all of you can understand. Multidisciplinary, you can understand. Multiple way means same education can be given in different form. We can also have like dual education system. Somebody can take one as open distance learning and another as a regular course. So that is a multiple way we can also. So simultaneously the person can have 2 degrees at a time. He can combine. Nowadays we are also having a combined courses like BBA and LLB. So that's why BA LLB or BBA LLB. Simultaneously the student is going to have 2 degrees. One is for BBA and other one is for LLB. So his employability increases. So these type of issues we are going to be we are going to look upon so far as the NEP challenges and addressing those challenges are concerned. With that, I end. I hope I have justified things within time.
Thank you, madam, for such a nice presentation. Within short period of time, you have completed also, uh, and you have started your presentation, that is education as continuum from early childhood education to higher education. You provide a holistic approach and a multidisciplinary education with multiple entry and exit options, moving from segmentation to integration. And we have learned something different from whatever the presentation we have received from the 20 papers in this 2 days national conference on national education policy and inclusive education. And lastly, you have given the practical and practical suggestions on what are the things which are currently taking place in the various universities, and hope all the paper presented and all the participants will learn something from you. Thank you, madam, for accepting our request and deliver your presentation. Although we have 20 minutes running out of time, because if we are having paper presentation, it will take time. So, thank you, madam, for your presentation. And lastly, we would like to request we are going to conclude our session with wonderful presentation of our Dr. Krishna A. Goyal. So, the Dr. Krishna A. Goyal currently acting as a director, Institute of Economic Studies, and professor, business, finance, and economics, Jainaran University, State University, Jodhpur. He's obtained MBA, MCom, and MPhil and PhD from the University of Rajasthan. He's in teaching profession from the last 26 years and has been associated with many academic associations. Dr. Goyal has contributed more than 50 research papers, edited, co-authored, and 12 books. Under his guidance, 10 PhD scholars already awarded, and one postdoctoral fellowship is currently under his supervision. He has completed 5 research projects. He has visited various universities and awarded with Institute International Research Excellence Awards, and also acted as a resource person for the many conference and workshops. So now it's over to you, sir. Dr. Krishna A. Goyal. Are you there, sir? Dr. Krishna A. Goyal, sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
Sir seems to be muted.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. He will deliver the presentation. Sir, you can continue the next 15 minutes. Dr. Krishna A. Goyal, sir. And can continue, sir. I think he didn't.
Sir needs to unmute.
Well, no, sir, I think sir, are you hearing? Professor Krishna, sir. Yes, yes, yes. Sir, please unmute yourself.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can continue, sir.
Okay, I think there is some technical issue with my laptop here, so I connected with mobile. Things will be okay now.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Pravina Kumar and Dr. Pradeep Kumar sir, for giving me this opportunity to interact with all intellectuals. And thank you, Dr. PADMALITA for giving so nice presentation, and you make my job easier as well as challenging, because nothing has left here. Everything you have discussed in detail here, but you make it easier because even I can discuss a few things from your lecture here. It would be a nice one from my side here. Dr. Pravina has already said that my job is to summarize everything, but anyway, I'll discuss or I'll share some of the experiences related to new education policy. I thank you everyone who are connected on this platform. I salute all 34 or more than 34 participants are still connected. Since last 2 hours, you are listening to the different audience, different speakers. uh, I'm sure, yes, I'm not sure I would be able to justify myself or not in given time. Although I was supposed to finish it at the 6:15, it's already 6:45 or 6:50, and I have to join on another platform at 7. But whatever the time allotted to me, we'll try to discuss some of the aspects of new education policy. Friends, you must be knowing, certainly the new education policy has come up after 34 years, and a lot of changes has done, or lot of changes are coming up within these 34 years. So certainly it needs whatever the policy, education policy which we are doing or which we are running or operating needs certain changes, and these changes come according to the need, according to the requirement of the hours. And many things are good, and many things certainly need to be discussed. I thank you, the Institute of Policy Research in Economics, Management and Social Development, and Dr. Pravina for initiating a thought process on this pertinent issue, on this current issue, on this debatable issue. And certainly it is the right time to have debate, discussions and dissemination the knowledge about new education policy. Since we are going to implement these policies now, many colleges or many states have already implemented and many are implementing. In my university, friends, we have implemented a new course, new professional course in management education from this year, according to new education policy, having the provision of many exit and many entries, means entry level or entry gates in these courses, and we are getting good response. Certainly, the changes which makes were necessary, and these changes are giving good response and giving comfort to the students. But at the same time, as Madam has already raised certain issues, where this education policy has raised certain challenges. So I'm not discussing whatever has already been discussed by Madam. I'm not going to share my PPT because many of the points which I made or which I shown in PPT has already been discussed. I'll be discussing only those points, or I'll be concentrating myself on those points which has not been discussed in detail, and it would be more useful as of my presence if you can have questions question answers, or you can ask questions and I can answer all these relating to new education policy. Give me few minutes here to share some of the thoughts here. I'm just introducing certain things, to initiating the ideas. On these, you can have questions or debates and discussions. So the floor will open after few discussions, and you can have question answers. And I think after discussing all these points, because many of the the presenters were also have also discussed very good points, and this 63-page draft has completely been discussed in these 2 days, because this is like marathon, and everyone is putting his or her best to give or to disseminate the knowledge regarding new education policy. So certainly when anything come up as a new or certain changes are there, it means there are certain problems in the old system. So what were these problems, or what were the issue areas, or what were the challenges in old policy that make us, or that promote us or motivate us to come out with a new education policy? Friends, practically you are feeling that there is or there are hard of the unemployed population. Many people are the lot of big data is there. Every sector you can consider it, and means this education is not in a position to giving job and creating hard or a job or the masses or a the big masses of the unemployed population. Earlier, if you go in tradition, there was zero unemployment rate, because every people or everyone is getting job. And not only getting job, they are creating job opportunities, because everyone was entrepreneur or entrepreneur. As the person get pass here, he is having the opportunity to get employed in his family business or his family job. The classes or the peoples were divided or segmented according to their job. What according to job? So that was there was no problem of unemployment. And how? Because when people get educated, they feel we need government service. So the education system which were prevailing is creating or developing or the curing the heart of unemployed population, and that makes us think of many aspects of many things. And earlier, that as Madam has already discussed, the basic problem in the old system was once a student gets admitted in a degree or a diploma program, he will exit after completion of this. There is no other exit road in between these. If a 3 years degree program, up to and until you complete these 3 year programs, you can exit. Exiting the whole education or whatever you have devoted will go best. But and now in new education policy, there are so many entry gates and there are so many exit gates. You can say the lateral entry is possible, and if you have completed something or somehow, then you can go out, and whatever you have earned or whatever you have learned will be deposited in your academic bank of credit agency, and that will remain with you. And whenever you want to start your education again, you want to remain strict, that is possible. So the major challenges with the old education policy was having is severely fragmented education ecosystem. I'm just giving a brief outline here. If any points you to want more discussion or elaborate it, I'll do that. Less emphasis on the development of cognitive skills and learning outcomes. Because that's why we need to come to the new education system. A rigid separation of disciplines, commerce, arts, science, and even in commerce there are so many segmentations. And once the students get admitted in any one course, he or she is supposed to pursue that course. He or she is supposed to restrict it to that course specified to it means he is or her opportunity to stay zero. He is not supposed to learn more or many more subjects. So now in new education policy, it is giving an opportunity to learn more and more subjects with your specific subject. So if you are doing or pursuing a management education or engineering education, with engineering you can have the any courses of arts, any course of fine arts or music or anything else also can be pursued. So that's why there was a need, and the education is newer. The limited access, particularly in socio-economically disadvantaged areas with few higher education institutions, that was another area, because the higher education number of higher education institutions were limited and it was not accessible to everyone. So now there is a concept of accessibility of higher education to each and everyone. I'll not go in detail in school education. I'll restrict myself to the higher education because the time available to me is, very less. Then inadequate mechanism for merit-based career management and progression. I'm discussing about old policy which were prevailing. What were drawbacks? What were challenges in old policy? That's why we need to shift to the new policy or new education policy. Then, then lesser emphasis on research, as most universities and colleges, and lack of competitive peer-reviewed research funding across disciplines. In older system, there was research, but the research which was not outcome based, was not based on the socially the research is useful or not. It was not considered, and the many outcome are coming, but it was a quantity outcome, not quality outcome. Now new education policy is focusing on research, pure research, the quality research. Then the an effective regulatory system. There was no effective regulatory system. That's why there is a need to have a new education system in which one single body will be responsible. Am I audible, Dr. Pravina? Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So these are few challenges. Many more has been discussed by ma'am here, which I skip here. I'm coming to the what government is doing or what new policy is having a provision or what we are doing, in new education policy. I'm leaving which has already been discussed. Moving towards multidisciplinary universities has already been discussed. Like whatever the universities now. Earlier there was the specific universities, IITs, IIMs, or the specific course-based universities. Now every university will be the multidisciplinary universities. Means every course is being will be taught in each and every university, and students are having choice to teach or to learn any or multiple courses at one time, or they can have choice. Means with their core subject they can have they can read or they can study other courses which were prevailing in USA, means since long. So moving towards more multidisciplinary undergraduate courses, moving towards faculty and institutional autonomy. This the earlier system, the autonomy to the teacher is the autonomy given to the teacher was very less. Now in new education policy, the full autonomy or the lot of autonomy is given to the teacher. Teacher can frame the syllabus according to the need of the hour, according to the need of the market, according to the need of the industry, and they can teach or they can deliver it as per need, as per requirement. So autonomy is given to the teacher to teach and to evaluate and to frame syllabus for their subject. Establishment of National Research Foundation (NRF). Many, not madam did not could not discuss, but many of the research scholars has discussed about it. And the light but tight regulation authorities. There is a single regulatory body for higher education institutions. Now there are multiple, the regulatory bodies are there, AICT, UGC, and so many institutions. Now there will be on a single higher education body to regulate the whole system. And of course, the government is expecting now with this new education policy that there should be, that everyone has discussed that the gross enrollment ratio should increase, and it should be 50% in the higher education and 100% in school education. And there shall be the list multidisciplinary, at least one large multidisciplinary higher education institution in every district is still not available. Even in Rajasthan, every district is not having the university. But now government is having a provision that in coming time, by 2030, every the district must have one university, at least multidisciplinary universities. Higher education institutions shall aim to become multidisciplinary institutions, each of which will aim to have 3,000 or more students. Means not like 200, 300, or at least 3,000. Means the concept is of having a bigger universities, having large number of students enrolled in these universities. Growth will be in both public and private institutions with strong emphasis on developing a large number of outstanding public institutions. So focus will be there on public and private. And one more concept is there, I think not yet discussed, during the sessions is that now government is considering there are different types of universities. The deemed universities, the ad hoc different type of universities are there. Now government in new education policy, there will be single university, no deemed or no other type of university. Only university means university will be there. So that is another concept in new education policy. Autonomous degree granting college will refer to a large multidisciplinary that grant undergraduate degree and is preliminary focus on undergraduate teaching. Now government is thinking to give autonomous status to the colleges. Colleges can issue the degree to the students who got enrolled in these colleges. So earlier the degree giving institutions were universities only. Universities can give degree. Now this right will be given to the good quality, the colleges which can provide degree to the undergraduate students. Now a few more points which were not discussed during the session. Although the single stream higher education will be phased out over time and will move towards becoming vibrant multidisciplinary institutions or part of vibrant multidisciplinary higher education clusters. Institutions will have the option to run open distance learning and online programs. This weightage will be given that they can have online as well as they can have face-to-face programs. So this is what means government is doing. The last part which I am going to discuss is regarding internationalization, which again was not discussed. So internationalization, because government is focusing now to interact, because the teaching cannot be done in isolation. But if Koop Mandub, you must have listened the concept of Koop Mandub. Koop Mandub means our knowledge will be restricted up to and until we will interact with other cultures or other countries or other nations. So government is focusing in new education policy to interact with the institutions running in other countries. So institutions of or universities of other countries can establish their centers in our country, and our country's institutions, good institutions, can establish their centers in other countries, and students and faculty exchange programs will be motivated or inspired. Government or universities can have MOUs, memorandum of understanding,